By the end of the week, the small town of Ridgway, Vermont was drowning in rumors. A sea of whispers and theories swirled around the disappearance of Emily, a local runner who vanished without a trace. Some said she'd simply run away, seeking a new life far from the quiet hills of Vermont. Others, with a more sinister tone, whispered about an obsessed fan from her running club, someone who couldn't take no for an answer. But Detective Laura Myers didn't buy any of it. She'd worked enough missing person cases to know the rhythm of a runaway, the chaotic energy of a stalker. This felt different, calculated. Every clue seemed placed, not found, as if someone was playing a game with her, leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for her to follow. She returned to the trail where Emily was last seen, the air crisp and cold, the snow crunching under her boots.
Ow.
The initial search team had combed this area for days, but Myers had a nagging feeling they'd missed something crucial. The footprints found behind Emily's weren't the frantic, deep impressions of a pursuer. No, they were spaced evenly, calm, measured. Like someone was simply walking with her, not chasing her down. A leisurely stroll, not a panicked flight. The heavy snowstorm that had blanketed the town that morning had unfortunately wiped away most of the other tracks. But her eyes caught something else, something subtle. A faint set of tire marks, almost completely obscured, leading away from the main trail entrance and toward a forgotten service road. A road rarely used by anyone, except perhaps park rangers, or those looking to stay hidden. Myers followed it, her gut tightening with each step. The silence of the woods was absolute, broken only by the sound of her own breathing. 2 miles in, the service road opened into a small clearing, and there it was. A flash of color against the stark white of the snow. A blue scarf, frozen stiff, tied neatly, almost ceremoniously, around a low-hanging tree branch. It was the same kind Emily was wearing in the last photo taken of her, the one plastered on missing person posters all over town. Her heart pounded in her chest. This was no accident. The scarf wasn't dropped. It was placed. A marker, a message. Forensics confirmed it was hers, just as she suspected. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. They found something else on the delicate fabric. Microscopic traces of engine oil. This meant someone had touched the scarf asterisk. After asterisk, she vanished. Someone who worked with cars or had been near a running engine. Pieces were starting to connect, forming a picture that was darker than she had imagined. The calm footprints, the hidden service road, the deliberately placed scarf. This was a meticulously planned abduction, orchestrated by someone who knew the area, who knew the routines, and who wanted to be found, but only on their own terms. Later that day, a break in the case came from an unexpected source. Dashcam footage from a snowplow uploaded to a local community forum went viral. The driver had been clearing the roads during the storm, his camera rolling the entire time. 6:42 a.m. On the morning Emily disappeared, the footage showed a black SUV parked on the side of Ridgway Road, right near the entrance to that same service road. The vehicle was nondescript, with no visible license plates. Its engine was running, exhaust pluming into the frigid air. As the plow rumbled past, its powerful headlight swept across the driver's side window, illuminating a silhouette inside. A figure, sitting perfectly still, motionless. The driver never got out, never even turned their head. Just sat there, waiting in the pre-dawn darkness. Detective Myers stared at the footage for hours, her eyes burning from the screen, playing it back frame by frame. Every instinct she had, every fiber of her being, screamed that this wasn't random. The SUV, the timing, the location. It was all connected. She zoomed in, enhancing the image, looking for any details she might have missed. But a sticker, a dent, anything. And then she saw it. A faint, almost imperceptible reflection on the SUV's side window. A tiny distortion in the glass, catching the light from the snowplow just right. It was a shape. A blue shape fluttering in the wind, just like the scarf she'd found tied to the tree. He wasn't just waiting, he was watching, had the scarf with him in the car. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The person in that SUV wasn't just a suspect. They were the puppet master. They had orchestrated everything. They had walked calmly with Emily, led her to a vehicle on that hidden road. And then, as a final chilling act, returned to leave the scarf as a calling card. They were sending a message directly to her, to the investigation. The scarf wasn't just a clue, it was a taunt, a challenge. The figure in the car wasn't just a kidnapper, they were a ghost, a silhouette in the snow, and they were just getting started. Myers knew this case was far from over. It was a chess match, and her opponent had just made their opening move. Now, it was her turn. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more mysteries. We post new videos every week, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Ring that notification bell so you're the first to know when a new story drops. See you in the next one. The search for Emily Carter had been relentless, a frantic race against the clock and the biting winter cold. But by the second day, it had morphed into something bigger, a chilling mystery that held the entire state captive. What started as a local concern for a missing runner had escalated into statewide news. Helicopters, like mechanical birds of prey, circled the vast frozen woods, their powerful cameras scanning the endless white canvas below. On the ground, hundreds of volunteers, their breath pluming in the frigid air, combed through miles of icy, unforgiving terrain. Teams of divers braving the near-freezing temperatures meticulously checked the dark, murky waters of the river that snaked its way near Ridgeway Trail. Hope was a flickering candle against a blizzard, and with every passing hour, it dimmed. They searched everywhere. They found nothing. Then, just as a fragile sense of despair began to settle over the investigation, the case took a bizarre and electrifying turn. It was late in the evening, the kind of quiet darkness that settles over a town holding its breath. At precisely 7:42 p.m., a single, unexpected ping broke the silence in the command center. Emily's phone, which everyone had assumed was dead or lost in the woods, had connected to a cell tower, but the location made no sense. It was 30 miles east, near the small, sleepy town of Middlebury. How was that possible? Her car was still parked right where she'd left it at the trailhead, a silent, snow-dusted testament to her vanished presence. Had she hitched a ride? Was she taken? The questions multiplied, each one more unsettling than the last. Detectives scrambled, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. They traced the signal's origin point, a desolate rest stop along Highway 89, a place of transit, anonymous and fleeting. Hope and dread mingled as they pulled the security footage. The video was grainy, a monochrome world distorted by the heavy swirling snow, showed a steady stream of cars and trucks, their headlights cutting brief. Ghostly trails through the blizzard as they pulled in and out through the night. It was a monotonous, almost hypnotic loop of ordinary life continuing while Emily's had so violently stopped. But then, at 7:39 p.m., just 3 minutes before her phone pinged the tower, the camera caught something. A figure emerged from the veil of snow. A woman, her face obscured by a gray hoodie pulled low. She walked past one of the cameras with a determined, steady pace. The image was frustratingly blurry, the details swallowed by the storm. But the build. The build looked hauntingly familiar. It was the same height as Emily, the same slender frame. The running shoes she wore, visible for just a split second, matched the brand Emily favored. And then, the detail that made every detective in the room lean closer. Around her neck, just visible above the collar of the hoodie, was a flash of color. Something blue. Emily's favorite scarf, the one she never ran without. The footage ended there abruptly. The woman walked out of the frame and simply disappeared. No car was seen picking her up. No face was identifiable. No license plate was captured. There was just that one silent, chilling moment. A woman who looked like Emily Carter, walking alone, swallowed by the storm. Was it her? Or was it someone wearing her clothes? The ambiguity was a new form of torture. The next morning, as the first light broke over the snow-covered landscape, police swarmed the rest area. It felt like searching for a ghost. They meticulously combed every inch of the property. Behind a row of overflowing dumpsters, half buried in a snowdrift, they found it. A simple plastic water bottle. It was a common, disposable item, the kind of thing you'd see anywhere. But when the lab results came back, they confirmed everyone's fears. The fingerprints on the bottle belonged to Emily Carter. She had been there, but there was still no other sign of her. No footprints that hadn't been obliterated by the snow in the snowplows. No discarded items. Nothing. It was another dead end, a breadcrumb leading to an empty void. Desperate for any new angle, investigators turned their focus back to Emily's life, interviewing her friends and family again, searching for any detail they might have missed. Her roommate Claire sat across from them, her face pale, her hands trembling. She told them Emily had been acting strange in the week leading up to her disappearance, anxious, on edge. She kept saying someone was watching her, Claire whispered, her voice barely audible. During her runs, she even changed her route once, started taking the north loop instead of the south. One of the detectives leaned forward. Did she say why? Did she see who it was? Claire hesitated, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for the right words, or perhaps the courage to say them. She said she saw the same black SUV parked by the trail. 2 days in a row. It was just there, waiting. A black SUV. It was the first concrete lead that pointed to a potential stalker, a predator. The investigation pivoted again. Detectives began the laborious process of checking every traffic camera, every private security feed, every Ring doorbell within a 5-mile radius of the Ridgeway Trail entrance for the morning Emily vanished. They were looking for that specific black SUV, a needle in a haystack of morning commuter traffic. They watched hours upon hours of footage, their eyes sore from staring at the screen. They didn't find the SUV, not a single one that matched the vague description. It was another crushing disappointment. But then, as one detective was about to give up for the night, rewinding the trailhead camera footage one last time, he saw it. It wasn't a vehicle. It was something far more sinister. At 6:31 a.m., the timestamp on the camera showed Emily, a small, determined figure in her bright running gear, starting her run. She passed the camera and headed down the snow-covered path, disappearing into the woods. The trail was pristine, covered in a fresh, undisturbed layer of snow. But then, just 3 minutes later, at 6:34 a.m., something else appeared on the footage. A second set of footprints. They emerged from the same direction Emily had come from, but from just out of the camera's view, from the cover of the trees. They were larger than hers, the stride longer, more purposeful. They followed her tracks exactly, step for step. They had watched her arrive, and then they had followed her. The trail, once a symbol of Emily's freedom and strength, now looked like a trap. The pristine snow was no longer a beautiful blanket. It was a witness, silently recording the moment the predator began to stalk its prey. The mystery of what happened to Emily Carter had just become terrifyingly clear. She wasn't just missing, she was hunted. And the hunt began the moment she stepped onto that trail. The search wasn't just for a missing person anymore. It was a hunt for a monster who had emerged from the shadows of the frozen woods. On the second day, the search for Emily Carter wasn't just a local effort anymore. It had become statewide news. The constant hum of helicopters could be heard for miles as they scanned the vast frozen woods from above. On the ground, hundreds of volunteers, their faces red from the biting cold, combed through miles of icy, unforgiving terrain. Meanwhile, specialized dive teams plunged into the frigid waters of the river near Ridgeway Trail, battling the current in near-zero visibility. But after hours of relentless searching, they came up with nothing. Not a single clue. Not a footprint out of place, not a scrap of fabric. It was as if Emily Carter had simply vanished into the cold winter air. Then, just as the day's search was winding down and a sense of hopelessness began to set in, the investigation took a bizarre and unexpected turn. It was late in the evening, precisely 7:42 p.m., when a ping was registered. It was Emily's phone, suddenly coming back to life. But the location made no sense. The signal came from a cell tower 30 miles east of the trail, near a small town called Middlebury. How could that be possible? Her car was still parked right where she'd left it at the trailhead, covered in a fresh layer of snow. She couldn't have driven there. Had someone taken her? And if so, why turn her phone on for just a moment? Detectives scrambled, immediately tracing the signal's origin. It led them to a desolate rest stop along Highway 89. This was a place travelers passed through, a brief stop for gas or a quick break, not a destination. It was a transient spot, anonymous and forgettable. Investigators pulled the security footage from the cameras positioned around the rest stop, hoping for a break. They fast-forwarded through hours of tape, watching the endless loop of cars pulling in and out through the blowing snow. The night was dark, the storm was getting worse, and the footage was grainy. For hours, it seemed like another dead end. But then they saw it. At 7:39 p.m., just 3 minutes before her phone pinged the tower, a figure walked past one of the cameras. It was a woman, shrouded in a gray hoodie, her head down against the wind. The image was blurry, distorted by the heavy snowfall, but there was something hauntingly familiar about her. Detectives leaned in closer, replaying the clip over and over. The build looked right. The height seemed to match Emily's, and she was wearing the same distinct brand of running shoes Emily owned. Then they noticed one more detail. Around her neck, just visible beneath the hood, was a flash of blue. Emily's favorite scarf was blue. The grainy figure walked with a purpose, but where was she going? The footage was maddeningly incomplete. It ended right there. There was no car waiting for her, no clear shot of her face, no license plate to trace. Just that one silent, fleeting moment, a woman who looked so much like Emily Carter, walking alone, before disappearing back into the swirling chaos of the storm. It was a ghost on the tape, a tantalizing clue that raised more questions than it answered. Was this Emily? And if so, how did she get here? 30 miles from her car with no apparent means of transportation? Was she alone? Was she in danger? Or was she running from something? The following morning, a team of police descended on the rest area, sealing it off as a potential crime scene. They searched every inch of the cold, sterile location. They looked in the bathrooms, behind the vending machines, and along the tree line bordering the highway. For hours, they found nothing. But then, tucked away behind the large metal dumpsters at the edge of the parking lot, an officer spotted something. It was a simple, disposable water bottle, half hidden in the snow. They carefully bagged it and sent it to the lab for analysis. The results came back within hours, and they sent a chill down everyone's spine. The fingerprints on the bottle were a perfect match for Emily Carter. She had been here. But the bottle was the only thing she left behind. There was still no sign of her. Detectives, now desperate for any lead, went back to talk to Emily's roommate, Claire. They hoped she could shed some light on Emily's state of mind in the days leading up to her disappearance. When they asked if Emily had been acting unusual, Claire's expression changed. She told them that, yes, Emily had been acting strange all week. She seemed anxious, on edge, Claire said. She kept saying someone was watching her during her runs. She was completely convinced of it. Emily was so unnerved that she had even changed her running route once, hoping to shake the feeling of being followed. Detectives pressed Claire for more details. Why did Emily think she was being watched? Claire hesitated for a moment, as if debating whether to share the information. Finally, she said, "She told me she saw the same black SUV parked by the trail 2 days in a row. It was just sitting there with tinted windows. Gave her a really bad feeling. A black SUV." This was the first concrete lead that suggested someone else might be involved. Investigators immediately began reviewing all available traffic camera footage from the roads leading to Ridgeway Trail on the morning Emily vanished. They spent hours scanning the tapes, looking for any sign of a black SUV that matched the description, but they didn't find it. The SUV was nowhere to be seen on any of the cameras. It was another frustrating dead end. Just as they were about to give up, one of the investigators noticed something else, something they had missed on the first pass. It wasn't on the road. It was on the trail itself. A security camera from a nearby property offered a partial time-stamped view of the trailhead's entrance. At 6:34 a.m., just 3 minutes after Emily would have started her run, the footage showed her footprints in the fresh snow. But then the camera captured something else. A second set of footprints appeared on the trail, directly behind hers. They were larger, deeper, and moving at a pace that suggested they were not just following, but closing in. Someone else was on that trail with her just moments after she began her run, and they were hidden from every camera. The search for Emily Carter had just become the hunt for a shadow. Thank you so much for watching. The mystery of what happened to Emily Carter continues to deepen with every new discovery. If you found this story as compelling as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more updates and deep dives into intriguing cases. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. Stay safe out there. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are rediving deep into a case that started with a single piece of fabric in the snow and unraveled into a chilling manhunt. This is the story of Emily's disappearance and the race against time to find her. Our story begins with Detective Myers, who had a grainy image from a snowplow's dashcam. It was a dark SUV, a fleeting glimpse in a blizzard. She sent it straight to the DMV database, crossing her fingers for a match. The wait was agonizing. Hours ticked by, feeling like days. Finally, at 3 a.m., a partial match pinged back. A 2001 black Ford Explorer registered to a man named Daniel Crow. Crow was 37, a mechanic from Hartford, Vermont, a quiet town nearby. On paper, he was clean. No criminal record to speak of, just a single speeding ticket from 2 years back. He seemed like an average guy, the kind of person you'd never look at twice. But as detectives know all too well, appearances can be deceiving. When officers arrived at Crow's listed address, their initial sense of relief evaporated. The garage was empty. The Ford Explorer was gone. They started canvassing the neighborhood, talking to anyone who might have seen something. Neighbors said they hadn't seen Crow in nearly a week, which was unusual for the routine-oriented mechanic. One woman, however, provided the first crucial link. She remembered hearing the distinct rumble of his truck's engine starting up at dawn, the very same day Emily disappeared. The timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. That night, armed with a search warrant, Detective Myers and her team descended on Crow's property. The house was unremarkable, but the garage held secrets. Pinned to a corkboard on the wall was a map of the Ridgeway Forest Trail. Myers felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach as she saw several red ink markings tracing a path through the woods. The markings led to the exact spot where Emily's scarf had been found tangled in a thorny bush. This wasn't random, it was planned. Their search continued. In a metal bin tucked away in a corner, they found a pair of mud-stained running shoes. They were small, a women's size 7. The mud was caked thick in the treads. Forensics was called in immediately. The team worked through the night, analyzing the soil samples. The results came back faster than expected. The mud was a perfect match for the unique soil composition of the Ridgeway Trail. And the trace DNA found inside the shoes? It was Emily's. The discovery confirmed their worst fears. Emily had been in that garage. The next morning, just as the investigation was gaining momentum, a new tip came in. A clerk at a gas station, 20 miles north of town, called the hotline. He remembered a man matching Crow's description. The man had pulled in around 3 a.m., acting jumpy and nervous. He paid for his gas in cash, avoiding any card transaction, and his eyes kept darting towards the dark woods behind the station. It was as if he was checking on something or someone. Myers got the security footage from the gas station and played it back, frame by frame. The quality was poor, but it was enough. The camera caught a split-second view of the SUV's interior as the man opened his door. In the back seat, a flash of color. It was a blue fabric, and pinned to it was what looked unmistakably like a runner's bib, the kind you wear in a race, still fastened with safety clips. Emily had been training for a marathon. Watching that grainy footage, the reality of the situation hit Detective Myers with the force of a physical blow. Her hand tightened on the edge of the table until her knuckles were white. This wasn't a case of a hiker getting lost in the wilderness. Emily had been taken. Abducted methodically by someone who knew the woods like the back of his hand. Someone who had watched her, planned this, and executed it with cold precision. The team immediately prepared to issue a statewide wallaby on the lookout for Daniel Crow and his black Ford Explorer. His face would be on every news channel, his license plate number broadcast across every police radio. They were about to launch a full-scale public manhunt. But before the alert could even be sent out, the phone rang again. It was a call that would change the direction of the entire investigation. On the line was another snowplow operator. He'd been clearing an old, forgotten service road just past the county line, a remote area seldom used in winter. And there, half buried in a fresh drift of snow, he'd found it, an abandoned black SUV. The plow operator confirmed the make and model. It was a Ford Explorer. And as he cautiously approached the vehicle, he noticed something strange. The engine was still warm. Crow had ditched the truck. But why? And where did he go from there? The race was on, not just to find a suspect, but to find Emily before it was too late. The warm engine meant he was still close. He was on foot, in the freezing wilderness, and the clock was ticking louder than ever. Thank you so much for watching. This case is a testament to the incredible dedication of law enforcement and the small details that can break a case wide open. What do you think happened next? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into fascinating cases. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. The first glimmer of dawn broke over the snow-covered landscape, revealing a dark shape against the white. It was an SUV, half buried in a fresh drift, parked strangely at the entrance to an old service road that snaked its way into the Ridgeway National Forest. By the time Detective Myers arrived, the scene was already cordoned off. The quiet hum of police radios cutting through the morning chill, the driver's side door hung open, a silent invitation into the mystery. Strangely, there were no footprints leading away from the vehicle, only a pristine, unbroken blanket of snow, as if the driver had simply vanished into thin air. Inside, the car felt like a time capsule of a frantic moment. Now, the keys were still dangling from the ignition, the engine cold but not yet frozen solid. On the passenger seat lay Emily's phone, its screen a spiderweb of cracks, the device smeared with mud. It looked like it had been dropped or thrown. Tucked inside the phone case, however, was something deeply personal, a folded photograph of Emily and her husband, smiling, captured during the warmth of last Christmas. It was a stark contrast to the cold, sterile scene Myers was now processing. Myers' gaze shifted to the back seat. There, crumpled on the floor, was a torn piece of blue fabric, a scarf. She recognized it immediately. It was the same one Emily was wearing in the last known footage of her, a grainy image from a trail camera that had become the focal point of the investigation. Beside the scarf lay a half-empty water bottle and a pair of men's work gloves. These weren't Emily's. They were large, worn, and out of place. A small tag sewn into the cuff provided the first real lead: Crow S Auto Repair. The name hung in the air, a potential key to unlocking this entire puzzle. The glove compartment yielded another crucial discovery: a spiral-bound notebook, its pages filled with crude, hand-drawn sketches. They weren't doodles, they were maps. Detailed maps of the forest, specifically the trails around the ridge where Emily loved to run. Alongside the maps were handwritten notes, observations, and a series of dates. Myers' blood ran cold as she realized the dates corresponded exactly with the days Emily was known to have been on that trail. This wasn't a random act. Someone had been watching her, studying her routine for weeks. Then, on the last page, a chilling, hastily scrawled message: "She always runs alone, near the ridge. Wait until snow." The words seemed to echo the silence of the forest, a premeditated plan laid bare. The forensic team, methodical and patient, began their sweep of the area around the SUV. It wasn't long before one of them called out. About 30 yards into the woods, they found a small disturbance in the snow. Carefully brushing it away, they uncovered a delicate, broken bracelet. It matched the description Emily's distraught husband had given them. A gift from their anniversary. Yet the scene was baffling. There were no signs of a struggle, no scuff marks, no drag marks in the snow. It was as if she had simply dropped it and walked away, or been lifted from the ground without a fight. The silence of the forest was absolute, offering no answers. Just as the quiet was becoming unbearable, another shout pierced the air. An officer further down the service road had found something, a set of tire tracks, distinct and separate from those of the SUV. They were narrower, with a deep, aggressive tread pattern, an ATV. The tracks led away from the main road, disappearing into the dense, unforgiving woods. They were fresh, likely made within the last few hours. The realization hit Detective Myers with the force of a physical blow. Whoever took Emily might not have left the forest. They might still be in here, somewhere among the endless trees. Myers grabbed her radio, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins, calling for backup, for canine units, for everything they had. She looked out into the vast, imposing wilderness that stretched before her, a labyrinth of snow and shadow. For days, a terrifying thought had been clawing at the edge of her mind. a possibility she hadn't dared to voice. But now, standing at the edge of the unknown, she allowed herself to whisper it into the cold air. If she's still alive, she's out there, somewhere close. The hunt had just begun. Thank you so much for joining us on this chilling investigation. What do you think happened to Emily? Let us know your theories in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries. Your support means the world to us. Stay safe out there. The snowstorm had raged through the night, piling drifts so high it felt like the world had been buried. We on the Ridgeway search team had already been forced to stop twice just to drag massive snow-laden branches off the road. I sat in the driver's seat of my SUV, the engine's heat a small comfort against the biting cold outside. On my tablet, a single photo glowed, Emily's blue scarf. The fabric looked so soft, so innocent against the white snow. It was the only concrete piece of evidence we had, proving she'd even been near this desolate old service road. We had one lead left, and it was a fragile one. A set of TV tracks, barely visible under the fresh powder. "Get the drone up," I ordered over the radio. "Follow those tracks. I want to see where they go." My voice was tight, strained. We were running out of time. Minutes that felt like hours. The drone feed was just a blur of static and white. The forest canopy was thick, the signal struggling to break through. Then the image flickered, sharpened, and there it was. A cabin. It was small, almost swallowed by the snow-heavy pines, miles from any marked trail on any map. There was no smoke curling from its chimney, no lights in the windows, no sign of life at all. But behind it, my breath hitched faint footprints. They led away from the cabin, disappearing toward a frozen creek. The light was failing, and the temperature was plummeting. We'd assembled a tactical team. The snow had muffled the world into an eerie silence. There were no birds, no wind, just the low hum of our vehicle engines and the crackle of radio static cutting through the quiet. As we approached the cabin on foot, a knot of unease tightened in my stomach. Something felt profoundly wrong. There were two sets of footprints leading away from the back of the structure, one large, one much smaller. They overlapped a messy trail of distress before stopping abruptly. "Hold your positions," I ordered, my voice a low command. "Don't go in yet. Check the perimeter first." My flashlight beam sliced through the gathering dark, scanning the edges of the woods. The team split, moving with practiced quiet. It was only moments later that Officer Rhodes' voice cut through the silence. "Detective, over here." He'd found a makeshift fire pit tucked behind the cabin. He knelt, pressing a gloved hand over the ashes.
"Oh, still warm," he confirmed.
Beside the pit, a woman's silver necklace was broken, the chain snapped, half buried as if it had been ripped off. I picked it up, my fingers numb with more than just the cold. The small pendant was engraved with the initials E.H. Emily Harper. My heart began to hammer against my ribs. "Radio 4 medical backup. Now," I commanded, my voice shaking slightly. With the team covering me, I pushed through the cabin door. The inside was chaos. An old stained mattress lay on the floor. Cans of food were strewn about. Tied to a bedpost was a length of rope. Someone had been held here, and recently. My eyes scanned the room, desperately searching for anything, and then I saw it. A piece of paper on a rickety wooden table, a handwritten note smeared with dirt. My blood ran cold as I read the messy script. "She's safe for now. I didn't want to hurt her. They were looking for me." I froze. The handwriting was Crow's. I recognized it from the cryptic maps he'd left behind. But they... Who was he talking about? Who else was out here? Before I could even begin to process the question, Officer Rhodes shouted again, his voice sharp with alarm, this time from the tree line near the creek. "Detective, blood. I've got blood in the snow." I ran, my boots sinking deep with every step, my flashlight beam trembling against the stark white ground. The trail of crimson drops led straight to the edge of the frozen creek. The ice was fractured, a dark web of cracks spreading from a central point before it had refrozen solid. There was no sign of Crow, no sign of Emily. There was only one thing. Her blue scarf, the same one from the photo, was caught on a low-hanging branch, fluttering weakly in the freezing wind, a final heartbreaking wave goodbye. I exhaled, my breath pluming in the frigid air. The silence was absolute, a heavy, suffocating blanket. And then, my radio crackled to life. First static, then a voice, clear and urgent. "Detective, just picked up movement on thermal, half a mile north of your position. Looks human." Moving slow, a surge of adrenaline shot through me, chasing away the cold and the despair. I turned toward the north, my eyes narrowing, focusing on the dark, unforgiving wilderness ahead, hope fierce and sharp, ignited in my chest. Let's bring her home. Thank you for joining me on this part of the investigation. The search for Emily has taken a darker, more complex turn, and we're closer than ever. If you're invested in seeing this through, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. We're not giving up. We'll see you in the next one. The snow had stopped, blanketing the Ridgeway forest in a dead white silence. For Detective Myers and her team, the world had shrunk to the crunch of their boots and the faint pulsing heat signal on the drone's monitor. It was a single figure, moving slowly, unsteadily, near the northern ridge. A flicker of life in a frozen wilderness. They'd been searching for 6 days. 6 long, grueling days since the runner, Emily Harper, vanished from her usual trail. Every lead had turned cold. Every search party had returned empty-handed. The forest, vast and indifferent, seemed to have swallowed her whole. But now, this heat signal. It was their last, desperate hope. When they finally reached the spot, the story began to unfold in the snow. Footprints, smaller ones uneven. The tracks of someone struggling, fighting to stay upright with every step. Myers raised her flashlight, its beam cutting through the pre-dawn gloom. Her voice, though steady, carried the tension of the entire week. "Emily Harper. This is Detective Myers. Can you hear me?" Only the cold whisper of wind through the ancient pines answered her. They pressed on, following the faltering tracks, until the dense trees opened up to reveal a small, frozen creek. There, huddled near the water's edge, was a figure. A woman wrapped in a tattered, thin blanket, shaking uncontrollably, barely conscious. "Emily," Myers shouted, the name tearing through the stillness. She broke into a sprint, her own exhaustion forgotten. Kneeling beside the woman, she stripped off her heavy police coat and wrapped it tightly around her. Emily's lips were blue, her skin a ghostly white against the snow, but her eyes flickered with a spark of life. "He's gone," she whispered, her voice a fragile, broken thing. "He tried to cross the ice. Broke." Tears began to stream down her face, freezing instantly on her cheeks as she recounted the horror. She had waited in that remote cabin after her captor, a man named Crow, had left, terrified he would return. When he didn't, she found a sliver of strength, a desperate will to survive. She followed his tracks, hoping they would lead to a road to salvation, to anyone who could help. Instead, she found only the cracked, unforgiving ice of the creek and the vast, empty wilderness beyond it. Just before dawn, the rhythmic chop of rotor blades sliced through the morning fog. The rescue helicopter had arrived. As Emily was carefully carried out on a stretcher, wrapped in layers of warm blankets, her pulse was faint but steady. She was alive. As the helicopter ascended, the forest below looked endless, untouched. A pristine landscape ready to swallow the secrets of those 6 harrowing days. Back in the small town of Ridgeway, the news spread like wildfire. "Missing runner found alive after 6 days in wilderness" became the headline flashing across every local news station. The town breathed a collective sigh of relief. A miracle. But for Detective Myers, this wasn't just another closed case. The loose ends didn't quite add up. Days later, back in the sterile quiet of her office, Myers found herself reviewing the evidence one last time. The maps crisscrossed with search grids, the worn notebook found in the abandoned cabin, and the final haunting note Crow had left behind. As she pieced it all together, the monstrous narrative of a kidnapping began to crumble, replaced by something far more human, and in its own way, more tragic. Crow hadn't kidnapped Emily for ransom or revenge. He was a lonely, isolated man who had become obsessed. From a distance, he watched her daily runs, weaving a fantasy in his mind that they were somehow connected, that they shared a bond only he could see. When he finally gathered the courage or the delusion to act, to make his fantasy real, he had no plan. He didn't know what to do next. He was just as lost as she was. And then, the storm hit. The blizzard that had hampered the search for days had also trapped them both, turning the hunter into just another soul lost in the wilderness. The last page of his notebook was a desperate scrawl, a final confession to no one. It read, "I just wanted her to see me. I didn't want this." Myers closed the case file and looked out her office window. Fresh snow was falling against soft, quiet flakes, gently erasing every footprint, every sign of the struggle that had taken place in Ridgeway Forest. It was a clean slate. Emily recovered slowly, the physical wounds healing faster than the emotional ones. Weeks later, in a brief interview with a local reporter, she tried to make sense of the ordeal. "I don't remember everything," she said, her voice still quiet but gaining strength. "Just that the woods were so quiet, and that I never stopped believing someone would find me, and she was right. They had. In a world where stories of the missing often end in heartbreak, this one didn't. For once, the missing didn't stay missing. The forest had given its secret back." Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as compelling as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales of survival and mystery. We'll see you in the next one.